All right, welcome to session 3 or week 3 of Anatomy of a Transaction. This week we are talking about lenders, and lenders play almost as important a role as we do as agents. They are the lifeblood of the transaction. Why? Because they have the money. So let's take some time and get started talking about lenders. Before we start that, though, let's just do a quick review, remembering that we are here for mastery, not just mechanics. Because when we understand the emotions, roles, and dynamics, especially our own and our clients, we become a steady force in the transaction that guides our clients to the finish line, which is the closing table. I'm Jen Worthington. I have been in real estate for 27 years. I have spent time in every part of the real estate transaction. I'm currently an associate broker with eXp Realty. I'm also licensed to write mortgages in all 50 states, and we're going to learn more about that in just a little bit. I also own a title company. I have a really unique philosophy in the real estate space, maybe not in the whole wide world, but in the real estate space. I am an agent and an entrepreneur that believes in flow, not force. I believe that when we are in flow, we have more successful, more sustainable businesses and careers rather than trying to just push and force our ways through. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But that is who I am. And I am excited to talk to you today about lenders because sometimes I feel like that's the most misunderstood part of the transaction. Now, as we have talked about, this is a 4-part series. We talked about agents and clients the first week. They are the heart of the transaction. Transaction coordinators last week, they are the nervous system. This week, we're talking about the blood, the lifeblood, the money, the lenders. And then next week, we'll be finishing up the series with a deep dive into what the title company does, why do they ask you all those questions, and how can we partner with them to finish up and make great transactions. In the first session, we did talk about clients and agents being the heart of the transaction. We know this is a very emotional transaction. It's also a very large financial transaction. And in order for us to be good conductors of this transaction, we need to be able to regulate those big feelings with compassion and leadership. And when we remain calm, when we remain in flow, we're able to do that much better and much easier. We're also able to do that when we have knowledge of what's actually happening in the transaction and how all of our parts play together. Last week, we really used that analogy of the conductor, and we're going to continue that a little bit this week. But remembering that the conductor stands in front of the orchestra and is in charge of the whole orchestra. However, they don't play the instruments. You don't make good music if you just have one instrument playing at a time. And if you try and grab somebody's instrument and play their role, it's not going to be a very great transaction, not for you and not for your clients. And at the end of the day, that is what we want to do. Have happy clients at a closing table. We foster collaboration and set the tone when we regulate emotions and ask for collaboration and partnership rather than looking at everybody as an opposing side. So let's get started with the lifeblood of the transaction, our lenders. Let's demystify mortgages just a little bit here to start. I know for a lot of agents that I've worked with through the years, mortgages feel a little bit intimidating, right? It's a lot of money. I don't want to know everything that's going on that side. However, when we have that knowledge, it is powerful and it can bring peace in the transaction. Your client hasn't likely done this very many times in their life. You do it on the daily. So, understanding how that works and being able to Partner with your lender to increase trust in the transaction and partner with your lender to help gather documentation and explain things can be absolutely revolutionary to your clients and make for so much better of a transaction at the end of the day. You don't have to be a mortgage expert, just like the conductor doesn't need to be a professional bassoonist. You just need to know enough to help and rely on that partnership with your lender to know how to make that work better. Now, we do need a base knowledge. And I think a lot of us have a very basic knowledge, like we know there's a mortgage. A lot of people know that there's different kinds of mortgage. There's government mortgages, and there's conventional mortgages, and there's private mortgages. There's all kinds of different mortgages. But our ability to translate that information to our clients and our ability to collaborate with our mortgage and lender partners is going to make all of the difference to your client who honestly is walking around a dark room with a blindfold on through most of the transaction. We're their eyes, we're their ears, we're their walking stick, helping to guide them. So by having this knowledge, by understanding what's needed and how we can help, that will help everything. Let's talk about what the lenders are actually doing. And they do a lot. They do a lot. We're going to bring Jason Dupree into the conversation here in just a few minutes, and he's going to give us a little bit more insight even than what I'm going to go over here. But they're on the back end with one main focus, just like the listing agent's focus is to make sure that the seller's goals are met and the buyer's agents are looking to work for the buyer in the transaction. The lender's core goal is to feel secure, giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to a complete stranger. They're managing risk, not mistrust. They're managing risk, not mistrust. I've seen a lot of agents go at lenders like they don't trust anyone. It's not that. They just need to be sure that everything lines up so that they can send $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 out the door and know that that's going to come back someday. All right. Let's talk about what some of the common lending requirements are. And this is a high level. These are kind of basic for pretty much any mortgage. The first thing, we have to make sure that the mortgage company has employment and income verification. And how do we do that? Pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, profit and loss statements, whatever those income verification documents are, we want to help identify what those are to your clients. And you would be surprised, and maybe you wouldn't, how many of your clients don't know what some of those things are. Has anybody here ever had a client that didn't know what a W-2 was? I have. You can explain it if you remain calm. The next thing that the lender is going to look at are debt to income ratios. Our debt to income ratios means how much do they owe on a monthly basis and how much are they going to owe after they add this house and mortgage to their debt load. Now, the important thing to know what is included in the debt to income ratio. These are things that appear on the credit report. It's not your utilities, it's not your insurance, it's not your budget for going out to eat. It is only the things that are on the credit report. So that is important. And a lot of times clients don't understand that. They want to add everything in, and that's not how the mortgage works. So we can help facilitate when we know how that works and what a debt to income ratio actually is. Credit scores also play a huge role in lending decisions. You have to have a minimum credit score to even qualify for a mortgage. Well, hopefully when they're talking to you, they've already been through at least a pre-approval process and they know that they have a credit score that qualifies. But how high your credit score is affects how much you can borrow or your loan to value, and it affects your interest rate. And that's kind of a big deal right now. because we don't have 2% rates anymore. We have, I think, 6.25, 6.5 today. So it can make a big difference. So understanding how your credit score is and maybe 5 or 10 more points will get you to the next level. It's important to know how those things work so that we can help our clients get the best terms and qualify for the best terms. And guess what? The loan officer wants that too. So work with them. And that's what we're going to work on today. They also need to do asset verification. That is retirement accounts, IRAs, savings accounts, other bank accounts, other properties that they may own, any assets that are verifiable with some sort of statement or what they're looking for there. And that just helps them to understand if things go sideways and somebody loses a job, that the house will still be paid for in that interim time. Next, we want proof of funds to close. This is important. I had an agent once who got way deep into a transaction, and the lender that she was working with had not verified proof of funds to close until a very late stage, and they didn't have the funds. Kind of blew up the deal. So if you can know at the top that they're going to need proof of funds for the money that they're putting into the transaction, you can help get those documents to the lender faster so those things can be looked at so you don't end up a week from a closing not having a closing anymore. Proof of funds also need to be sourced, not mysterious. Help your lender with this. Jason, I'm sure, has untold nightmare stories of large amounts of cash showing up in a bank account that can't be accounted for and then can't be counted or used in the transaction. So any large deposits have to be sourced. We have to know where it came from. It can't come from thin air. If it came from Aunt Betty, then we have to talk to Aunt Betty and find out where Aunt Betty got the money. If it came from selling a car, then we have to see that documentation on that sold car, because otherwise the lender is going to think it came from selling drugs and they can't use that money anyway. So they just don't use it. All right, gift funds, like we just talked about, have to have documentation too. Important, if your client is using gift funds, help your lender partner out so that they expect that they're going to contact Aunt Betty and ask for Aunt Betty's bank statement about where those funds came from, so that Aunt Betty doesn't get a call from Jason saying, "Hey, Aunt Betty, we need your bank statement." And Aunt Betty's like, "Who are you and why do you want to look at my bank statement?" These conversations, when they're had up front, help solve tons of problems and uncomfortable conversations and mistrust. If it's unexpected, you automatically in this transaction start not to trust. But if it's something that I've told you about ahead of time, you can have those conversations and smooth that path, or find out that Aunt Betty's never going to give anybody her bank statement. And hopefully you have someone else to get you those gift funds. The last thing, pretty much in every mortgage, is going to be your housing history. If you owned a house, did you pay that mortgage on time? If you're renting, do you have a way to verify that rent was paid on time for the last 12 to 24 months, depending on your loan program? So those are kind of our key things. These are things that every single real estate agent should understand so that you can help your lender partner get these pieces of information. Because if they don't have them, they're not going to give all of that money to your buyer. And that would be sad for your buyer and for you and for the loan officer. Now, why does the lender ask for all of these things? Because the lender doesn't want to have to foreclose on the property down the road. They don't want to take houses from people. They want to make sure that the people that bought the houses can pay for them. Foreclosure means that everybody loses in the transaction. It's a horribly expensive thing for a lender to go through, and it's a very devastating financial and emotional thing for an individual to go through. I have had people in my life that have gone through foreclosure. It's not a fun process. And a lot of those things can be avoided at the beginning if all the documentation is there. The lenders are out there just protecting from the small percentage of bad actors. It's not the majority of people, it's that small percentage that makes them have to ask everybody for things. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a closing. I assume that most of you have. If you're a newer agent, maybe not yet. But at a closing, there's a very thick stack of papers that people have to sign. And what I like to tell people, because everyone's always like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of papers to have to sign. I said, yes, every paper represents a lawsuit. And that's how it works in lending. Until someone gets sued over something, they can't make the addendum, the amendment, the statement, or whatever. So they're protecting against that once in a lifetime case. If they can avoid it, they want to do that. Let's talk about the client lender disconnect. Our clients are excited to buy a house. They're excited to get through this process. In their heart of hearts, they know that they can pay. And when lenders start asking for more and more and more things, they think, why don't they trust me? Or it feels invasive. It's like many times I've been like, yes, I understand. They want a blood sample and a DNA test, but it's just how mortgages are. It does feel invasive. And at the end of the day, it is invasive. But what is the goal? You want to buy a house and have something that you can pay into and build equity in and make a life in. And that does require some sort of invasion unless you've got all of the cash to do it yourself. I recently had a transaction. I had some folks that were relocating from another state back to here. And Jason and I actually worked on this transaction together. And they were getting their new jobs here. And we had some issues with a verification of employment because the employer, even though he was a full-time employee, our client was a full-time employee, would not give us a letter stating that. And so we had to find workarounds, and it was rough, but you know what? We found the workaround. We got the information that was needed because we worked together in that transaction. We found the solution. Had I just been a pissed off agent who was mad at the lender because they couldn't make something work, we would not have closed that transaction. And my clients would not have gotten a house that they absolutely love. So, knowing this mindset, yes, it is invasive, but we can always find a way. And we did. Lenders want our clients to prove it. They want to know where the money's coming from. They want to know what's going to happen if income changes. And that is their whole mindset. We're going to give out hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're taking the majority of the risk in this financial transaction. Yes, it's secured to an asset, but ultimately they don't want the asset. They want the money back with interest. Our role is to be a translator, a bridge builder, an emotional regulator, and a trust builder. We need to make sure that we are familiar with what's happening on that side of the transaction so that when our clients freak out, we don't. If when all of that turbulence happened at the end of a transaction for me, if I would have freaked out and started yelling and screaming and throwing my hands up, we couldn't find a solution. Or my clients would have completely lost trust in the lender and backed out. But because I was able to stay calm and say, we can find a solution to this. And then I went to the lender calmly and said, we can find a solution to this. We were able to find that. And you know what? We closed. And while it was frustrating, everyone was happy at the closing table because trust wasn't broken ultimately. We understood what was happening and the hand that we were dealt, and we figured out a way to build a bridge to get to the other side. Let's prepare our clients for lending success, not lending stress. The way that we do that, I'm gonna have to move you guys, is we help echo those things that the client needs to do. Again, they're blindfolded in a dark room. They don't have any idea. I've been in this industry for 27 years, and I can tell you I have probably had every one of these things happen in a transaction that blew it up or almost blew it up. We don't want our clients to make any kind of large financial transactions in the middle of a large financial transaction. The most important thing is getting that house. That's the most important thing. So don't go buy furniture for the whole house. Don't go buy a brand new car. Don't open new credit. Don't move money from your joint account with your mom and dad to your checking account because your mom and dad's account's not counted in your transaction. And please don't quit your job. I've had that happen when I've been on the seller side. I've never had one of my actual clients do that. But don't quit your job and don't change professions in the middle of a large financial transaction. We had a deal I think it was last year. I was representing the sellers and we were supposed to close, but in the last week before we were supposed to close, the buyer changed jobs. She just changed jobs from one job to another job, and it was a better job. So, of course, she took it. But it happened in the middle of a financial transaction and delayed our closing 2 more weeks, which is always frustrating. If something like that happens, or if somebody gets laid off, because I've had that happen to other buyers as well, communicate. Be a place that your clients trust you and can communicate with you so that you can immediately get that information to the lender, because there's nothing worse than the day before a deal's supposed to close and underwriting's doing their final verifications of the money, verifications of credit, and verifications of employment, and have one of those things fail. It is endlessly frustrating for everyone. So if you say it at the beginning, say it in the middle, say it all the way up to the end, hey, make sure you don't do these things. Make sure before you make any kind of financial move, you talk to your lender first so that they can help you know if that's an okay thing for you to do or not. That is what you want to make sure that you're doing. That's that communication. That gives us fewer surprises, faster underwriting, less stress, and at the end of the day, happier closing table experiences when we communicate with our clients and become that advocate for them in the transaction. Now, in our position as the real estate agent in the transaction, there are a lot of things that we can control. There are a lot of things that we can suggest, and there are some things that we don't ultimately have the decision on. So I have a group of preferred lenders. These are people that I have worked with for years and years in this market. I know if they're giving me a pre-approval, that pre-approval is good. If I see their name on a pre-approval that comes in on an offer and a listing that I have, I feel amazing because I know the deal's going to close. And that's ideal. Sometimes people have their own lenders. That's great. You can still work with them, but you're starting kind of from a ground zero. You want to immediately make that phone call and start building that relationship. Let them know that you're inviting them into a team situation and not a suspicious, mistrustful, you better do your job kind of situation. Nobody wants to be treated that way. And then there are the online lenders, always our favorite in real estate. Who doesn't love a pre-approval from rate.com or Rocket, my very favorite. Uh, it requires extra skill. It requires extra effort on your part. But guys, you can work with any lender. You can work with any lender. You could also suggest to your client, hey, I'm so excited that you're pre-approved. I don't know if you've done much looking around, but here are some other people you may want to just check and see, go through that pre-approval process and see if maybe you can get better terms or a better rate or better something to try and help them move towards someone that you trust and work well with already. Regardless of who the lender is, though, your job is to build relationship and collaboration so that your client gets to the closing table with a smile on their face, not tears in their eyes. All right, here are my top 5 tips for working with clients and lenders. And we've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. I want to see if you guys are tracking with me. Does anybody know what tip number 1 is going to be? That's right. Be an agent in flow. Be an agent in flow. Regulate yourself first. When we're stressed and in force and feeling pressured, we don't make good decisions. We don't help our clients. So use the flow method. Focus, lean in, open, and then go to work. Don't start from a place where you're stressed and angry and frustrated and unsure because we get stressed, angry, frustrated, and unsure when we don't know what's going on. If we'll take a minute, take a breath, listen to what we're hearing on the inside, take that inspired action, I guarantee you your solutions are going to come so much easier, so much more peaceful, and your clients are going to see you as a rock star in the situation instead of somebody who's just flying off the handle and not helping them because they're flying off the handle. Because it happens. Number 2, communicate from the start. You want to communicate with your lender. You want to have the whole picture of who your client is, right? And you can do this from the start. If they come to you with a pre-approval or if they've gotten pre-approved after your first meeting with one of your preferred lenders, you can start that conversation. Hey, Jason, I know that my friends put in an application. Can you tell me where we're at? What are we looking at? What type of financing do they qualify? Are there going to be any challenges in it? Are there any ways that I can help you do the best job for these folks? And with your clients, you can walk them through the steps, help them to expect what's coming so it's not a surprise, feels less intrusive, less invasive, and makes them more willing to just provide the information when they feel confident, right? I don't mind giving my social security number to somebody that I trust. But if it's somebody that I'm suspicious of, I don't want to give them my bank statements. I don't want to give them my 401k account. I don't want to give them the list of properties that I own. I don't want to. We help pave that way because a lot of times your clients are never going to meet face to face with their lender, and that can be scary unless you help make it less scary because they will meet with you face to face, at least most of the time. I have had a couple of clients that I didn't meet until closing because they came from out of state, but still they saw me on video. So I guess that counts. It helps them understand what's coming next. It helps them understand why that documentation matters. You can be that go between the liaison between the lender and your client, helping them understand this is normal because you've done this so many times before. And if you haven't done it, you're around agents that have done it, especially here at the Cedar Branch. So you can absolutely make sure that people feel more comfort. Compassion and humor also go a long way in communicating with your clients. I totally understand. Make a joke, ease that pressure in some way, not an offhand joke, but a joke about how ridiculous the situation is because it is a ridiculous situation. And that's okay. At the end of it, guess what they get? A giant house and a couple $100,000 in debt. It's great. Number three, don't freak out. Every real estate transaction has its own fun and its own idiosyncrasies, and challenges are a normal part of our day. I like to say, as real estate agents, we're professional problem solvers. That's what we do. We solve problems, we make ways, we handle challenges. Obstacles are normal. Underwriting requests are not a personal attack, even though sometimes they seem like it. Like when you insist on having an employer say something they will never say. It seems ridiculous, but at the end of the day, what is the lender trying to do? They're giving hundreds of $1,000s to a stranger and they want to make sure that it'll be paid back. Stay solution oriented. Stay solution oriented and normalize the process for clients. Oh, yeah, I've seen this before. Even if it's something you've never seen before, your client needs to understand that they can remain calm in the process. Normalize it for your client. And then you can get on the phone with the lender and be like, hey, I've never seen this before. What's going on here? But hopefully you've been in communication. Oh, I think that's our next point. Set a rhythm. Set a rhythm to have regular check-ins with your lender. That way, if something does come up in the file that seems strange or weird, you already know and can help smooth that way. Predictable updates make for a smooth transaction. Oh, and include your transaction coordinator in communications, because your transaction coordinator can get in touch with the lender while you're out showing houses to another client or going on listing appointments to another thing, and then inform you of what's going on later. And then if you need to get in touch, you can directly. Rhythm reduces surprises. So set a rhythm. And then this one's my favorite. Stay in curiosity, guys. Curiosity builds collaboration, and judgment builds friction. Ask questions, seek understanding, avoid judgment, and remember that loan officer is not getting a check until you get a check too. And probably they're getting a check a few weeks later. So when we assume that our partners in a transaction are shady or underhanded or intentionally trying to be mean or any kinds of judgments we can make. We don't like their attitude. We don't like the fact that they don't smile, whatever the thing is, that is going to stop collaboration and it is going to add friction to the transaction. Buying or selling a home is one of the most stressful things that people can do. Adding any extra friction to that transaction only makes that harder, and we're here to make it easier. So stay in curiosity. Don't make a judgment. Don't assume that the processor is a moron or the underwriter is a jerk, even if that's how it appears. Stay calm, don't freak out, and stay in curiosity. All right, that is what I have to say about working with a lender. So let's bring Jason up to talk to us about what lenders need, expect, what would be helpful, what is not helpful, and a little bonus about how maybe you can become part of a really amazing program that Texana has for realtors. So Jason has been in the mortgage industry for 16 years. He is the vice president of the Remlo division at Texana Bank, and we've been working together for the past couple of years. He has helped me so much. The Remlo program, for those of you that don't know, is the Real Estate Mortgage Loan Officer program that they have at Texana Bank, which is a federally chartered bank, and I'll let Jason tell you a little bit more about that. But that is who he is. I'm going to make my I'm going to take this down for this part of our conversation. And oops, I didn't take it down for me. That was nice. All right, Jason. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Anatomy of a Transaction. I brought you here because I so value you as a partner in this business, and you have done amazing things with this REMLO program. Also, you're a great loan officer. So, tell us a little bit about, from your perspective as a loan officer, what is the lender doing behind the scenes, some things that maybe we don't understand or know or haven't thought of as real estate agents?
No, thanks so much, Jen. I will do my best to live up to that introduction. Um, and yes, my wife picks out my clothes, and that's why my headshot. And right now, I'm wearing the same shirt. Apparently, this is her favorite shirt. So I will just go ahead and call that out before the jokes start. So yeah, so during the transaction, really it starts before the contract for us. We're working on that pre-approval, making sure we're looking at all the different documents the client can provide to us at that time. One of the biggest things I can emphasize, the loan officer, kind of like a priest in the Catholic Church, like you tell us everything. All right. We're not the underwriter. Tell us everything so we can package your loan to the best of our ability because the underwriter is going to find out. I've been in lending, as you said, over 16 years. I don't even know how many loans I've closed. My highest in 2020, I did like 344 transactions personally.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, I worked every day, but hey, it was COVID. What else was there to do? Um,
Good point.
so with that being said, only twice in my entire career have we had somebody actively trying to create mortgage fraud. So generally, it's a misunderstanding, a misrepresentation, thinking they're doing their best when they don't really know. So that is why please encourage your clients to tell us everything. If we package it correctly, we can get a loan done much easier. Now, personally, I have the advantage of not only does Texana Bank do in-house lending, but I have 65 broker partners I can work with. So when I see a certain kind of client come through, and Jen and I have talked about this a lot in the last couple of weeks over certain
Yeah.
clients, there are different companies underwrite differently, just so you know. There is the more old school method where one underwriter does the whole file from start to finish. And that can be helpful because it's the same person. So as you have conversations, they kind of know when things come up. On the other hand, you can have not red flags, but I'll call them pink flags. Like, oh, this is a little unusual, but not going to throw me off right now. There are other companies that's not how they work. They are all about speed and efficiency, and they break out each income is one thing, credit is one thing, past home occupancy is another thing, and one underwriter that's all they do all day is check income on different clients. So if it's a file again that's got a lot of maybe pink flags or a lot of questions, that's the kind of broker, that's who I want to broker the file out to because the file's going to go through usually much smoother, faster, better chance of closing. So again, us knowing everything we can up front by you encouraging to share the trust they have with you, major help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we start with that pre-approval. Once it's under contract, that is when things go kind of crazy. Ordering the appraisal, locking the rate, getting the file submitted to underwriting, um, coordinating with title, insurance, and sometimes HOA as well. Those are three entities that we don't have control over. Or four, really, with the appraiser, we don't have any control over them. They're super vital to getting the loan done. So the faster we can get those moving forward, title is usually great. Insurance, we don't normally have a lot of issues with. Appraisal can be the big hit or miss, especially like what's happening with a lot of the country. Weather's coming up. You're going to have weather advisory stuff like that that can severely slow that down. And then HOAs, which is the bane of everyone's existence. I've never heard anyone, I think, say great things about an HOA. But those are all things that can really impede our progress, and we've got to deal with all of them. So, other than that, the other big one is as we manage these conditions, as we get things for underwriting clarified or documented, a timely response from the buyer or the agent, whoever we need something from, super, super important.
Yeah.
Title's usually great, and Jen can tell you firsthand they understand the speed at which transactions happen. But that is, because a lot of stuff is also under regulation. We have federal timelines. We have to wait. This document goes out, you got to wait 3 days. No matter what, this happens, you got to wait this long. So that is another big thing we try to factor in. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit better insight. And for anybody who wants to know more, let Jen know, and you can jump into my mortgage 101 class I teach a couple times a year as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Jason, what do lenders need or loan officers need most from agents?
So great, awesome question. There's two major times for this. First is in the pre-approval process. So you just started working with the client, you're starting to look at homes. There's three pieces of information that no client ever has any idea about: property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA fees. So I know that we're not going to have that down pat because we're still looking at a lot of homes, but property taxes, where you're working, where they're looking, are we going to possibly cross city limits? Are we going to cross into another county and now property taxes maybe double or more even in some instances? So having a good idea, a rough estimate of what to use there, massively important because maybe we're overestimating. You can get us a clearer picture. Now the client qualifies for more, so now they get to go look at the next tier of homes that they're going to fall in love with.
Yeah.
Homeowners insurance. Now, this one has been a massive topic over the last couple of years. Depending on where you're located, we've seen some rates triple.
Yeah.
And so, with that, I highly recommend everybody has an insurance agent as part of their network. So the same way you have a home inspector, you should have one or two insurance agents. Have them run some figures. They need little to no time, an address maybe. Boom, they can get an idea. Once in a while, we run into a surprise where something's happened to that house multiple times. Insurance is going to be through the roof. So
Yeah.
before you spend a ton of time negotiating, before home inspection, let's clear up some of those pictures. Just let's see what we can uncover before it's crunch time. And then last but not least is HOAs. So not as $175 quarterly payment to live in a single family home in a neighborhood, not such a big deal. But then all of a sudden you go and you look at a condo or a townhouse, and that becomes $175 or more monthly fee. That's going to have a much bigger impact on their debt to income ratio. And sometimes means they won't qualify. So have that conversation with your lender. Get an idea of what does their debt to income really look like? Are we right at the limit? And if so, then okay, hey, have we factored in HOA? Have we factored in taxes and insurance to be as accurate as possible? Not only just to make sure things go smoothly, but maybe smoothly means telling the client, no, this house isn't going to work, but we do it in a timely manner, which is easy to recover from versus we're 3 weeks in, 2 weeks into the process. We finally get all this info back. And now the client finds out they can't own that home and they've already mentally moved in. Helping them find that next home becomes much more challenging. So those would be the big ones up front. And then the other one, and I've got Jessica on here, which is beautiful, a summary page. When you send in your contract, not all contracts in all areas are equal. Some states have beautiful contracts, so easy to find all the information or acquire it. Others, it's like they're hiding necessary information from people. So a
Yeah.
summary page that highlights all the contact information for all parties. Of course, when we're ordering that appraisal, we want to have as many contacts as possible so that appraiser can get scheduled right away. Um, Major deadlines. So maybe you have a financing deadline or some other deadline that's not the norm. We want to make sure that's pointed out to everybody. Any kind of credits, and then transaction coordinator fees. So if there's anything outside the ordinary, like a transaction coordinator fee that the buyer's paying for, whatever it might be, bring that up so that we factor that in early, because the last thing anybody wants to see is a closing disclosure go out and then numbers have changed not in the borrower's favor. And now it's like a bucking bronco. We're trying to reel them back in and get them back to the closing table.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I'm just going to put a little plug in there for your transaction coordinator here. Guys, your transaction coordinator, make sure that the lender has all of those things so that you don't have to be hunting through your contract that you forgot all the information on. Um, that's part of what they do. That's part of their service to communicate that with your lender, and hallelujah. It makes things so much easier when they can help you in that way. So hire a transaction coordinator if you don't have one already. Jessica is available. Um, what is one thing, Jason, that you wish agents would not do in a transaction?
Discussing changes with a client without talking to the lender first. So this can be timeline changes, which hopefully everybody realizes already that you would need to get the lender involved. But one of the biggest ones, and I've seen it, sometimes it's not a big deal. We can make it work. Sometimes we can't, and it puts the agent in a really bad spot, is we get that home inspection back and we're going to start looking at concessions. And I've seen, just for example, last year we had a big one with a Rimlo I work with all the time, a $20,000 concession due to a sewer line issue. Totally get it. Problem is, there's not $20,000 in fees on a loan to use all those concessions. And we can't give them cash. We can't do this. Now, luckily, this client had some money. We were able to do a rate buy down, a 2-year buy down, so they would get the money back over the first 2 years. But they had the funds to also cover the sewer repair themselves. Now, not everything's going to happen that way, but
Yeah.
that's one of those, like, before you go in and you put that other agent to the grindstone to really fight for your client, which is awesome. Make sure we can use the prize you get from that fight. So loop the agent, loop your lender in, make sure you're on the same page. Sometimes it's a creative solution, but again, that's probably the biggest thing, because then all of a sudden you're the hero to your client's eyes and we look like the bad guy because we didn't talk beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't ever want your client feeling like someone in this huge financial transaction is a bad guy. Because again, we get to the closing table happily when there's trust in the transaction. And when we feel like we have to make somebody the enemy or make somebody the bad guy in the transaction, doesn't that backfires, right? That backfires on us because I don't want my buyer to not trust the person that's giving them all of the money in the transaction. That's not a good feeling. So if I can always make sure that I'm talking about things with the loan officer, because there are ways that you can look at things one way that encourages trust and increases trust, and there's another way that you can frame things that make it sound bad, and it's not, it just is. Um, I'll use a quick example. There were two salesmen that got sent to Africa. They were shoe salesmen and they landed, and one of them wrote back to the home office, horrible news. No one here wears shoes. And the other one wrote back, great news. No one here wears shoes. So it's like that perspective shift. What perspective can you come from that builds that trust in the relationship and engenders good feelings that get us to the closing table faster, safer, and happier, as opposed to being that doom and gloom. Oh no. It, you don't have to say, oh no, really ever in a transaction. Maybe not right now. It's about as bad as it gets for us. But if we're working in conjunction with our lenders, especially the people that hold the purse strings, um, it just goes better. Just goes better. So talk to them
And Jen,
first.
I really want to emphasize your Africa, your story there. We have a specific client that we need to hit a certain loan amount for them to be able to qualify for a very unique program. Now, if Jen and I weren't working together hand in hand, and she wasn't also taking on in this Rimlo program those lending ideals, she would negotiate for the cheapest purchase price possible because that's generally how we help our clients. Problem is that would backfire in this situation. There are other situations where sometimes having a loan amount that's just $1,000 higher may qualify the borrower for better pricing. The idea is a $300,000 loan amount may get the borrower better pricing because the lender looks at that as more profitability. We're going to turn over the extra profit versus a 299. But if we've got to stay at 20%, 10%, whatever that percentage is, we may be at 299 now. And so when you're looking at that, instead of that slightly lower price, maybe it's more seller concessions, something like that, so that we can package. So again, that's super important when you're putting that offer in, and then knowing where your negotiations maybe will be most effective. So, and Jen and I, luckily, we've had enough interesting clients, we'll say, that we've been able to do a lot of this together. But I will say that's a huge, huge thing that I would be doing a disservice if I didn't bring up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Just like your seller, the best deal for them may not be the highest priced offer that comes in. The best deal for your buyer may not be the lowest price they can get the house for, because $1,000 or $2,000 in a purchase price equates to very little in a mortgage. But to the lender, it might make a big difference. Well, I appreciate that. We're going to just ask, I have a couple of questions for you guys to think about as we get to tying up our time today. One, where do you feel the least confident in lending? Where do you feel the least confident in lending? And when you figure that out, who can you go to shore that knowledge gap up? Do you have that trusted lending partner that you can go to and be like, hey, Jason, I've got these clients. They're so wonderful. They have some strange things happening, but they want to buy a house. Is there a way? What can we do? Do you have that person? And if you don't, how can we help you at the Cedar Branch to find that person and fill that gap? Second, what is one expectation that you can set earlier with your clients and start communicating more? Maybe it is that letting them know that you're going to work with their lender, letting them know that you're forming partnerships in this transaction to help get them what they want. Maybe it's making sure that you understand the documentation that's required for just about every mortgage. There's always going to be strange things that come up from time to time. But again, if there's something that your client says they want a P960 and you have no idea what a P960 is, what are you going to do? Oh my gosh, well, that's very strange. Or are you going to be like, oh, yeah, okay. And then go to the lender and say, hey, what is a P960 and how can I help you get that? Right. And then finally, how can you better support both sides? How can you better support both sides of this transaction, the lender and the client? How can you bridge the gaps between them that make things feel better and build trust? All right. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this presentation, because when the blood flows freely, the body thrives and the transaction gets to the closing table, which is where we all want to be anyway. I'm going to let Jason tell you a little bit about the Remlo program and how you can get involved. I know we took the slide deck down. I will have that slide in there towards the end, so you'll be able to see the contact information and click a link to get involved in the Remlo program. But Jason, tell us a little bit about this Remlo program. Where did it come from? How do we qualify to be a Remlo, and what does that mean?
No, perfect. So um, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly to save everybody's time, but please follow up with Jen. And happy we've got open meetings, even one later today, if you want to hop in with more questions. But Rimlo program was designed to help agents maximize the relationship you're already building with your clients. The idea is between NAR, between margins, the narrowing of margins and lending, the industry is changing both for lenders and agents all over the country. And this is not some sort of new program or fly by night. This is where we see the industry moving towards. So what we're doing is taking successful agents that are already great at the real estate side of things, getting them licensed in all 50 states. So if you're licensed as an agent in one or two states, you're now as a RIMLO licensed in all 50 states, so you can grow your business even further. When your clients are moving out of state, your connection doesn't stop. You can help them with that loan process. If you've lived somewhere else, friends, family, these are all potential clients and revenue sources for you. One of the big things we've noticed with rates going up, with home prices going up, the time between your client coming back to you for a second transaction is growing ever more. Meaning now you're having to find more clients to keep your sales productions at past numbers. By adding financing services, you're able to recoup that time between because while your clients are going from a 7 year period of buying homes on average to more like a 12-year period now, they're refinancing almost every 3 years. Debt is going
Wow.
up and up, and equity is there to take care of that. You can be the one to help them. So whether it's a purchase, a refinance, cash out, HELOC, you name it, you can be there for them. And then the big thing is now you become known as the person in your area. Anything about a home, buying, selling, financing, value, you name it, that you are now the go-to person in your market. So it's a huge thing we've done. And now the nicest part about this is you don't have to learn a second profession. You get matched up with a loan partner. I don't know if you've heard the subtle hints, but I am Jim's loan partner in the Rimlow program. So what I do is not only help her with just some of the basic day-to-day stuff, but when she gets a client, they fill out her apply now link. She tells me all about the client, and then I help take over finding the right loan program, getting them locked in, getting them through underwriting to the closing table where she steps back in to schedule closing. By her doing those three items, she's able to, under new RESPA regulations, legally get paid on every transaction as the loan officer. RESPA change or the HUD changed their conflict of interest so that a loan officer is no longer seen as a decision maker. Only the underwriter, the appraiser, and title. So because you're not an underwriter, appraiser, or title, you can now act as both the agent and the lender in that transaction, be compensated for both of those, as well as refinance all your old clients. So we've been going strong now for quite a while. We've got over 380 Rimlos out there now.
Oh, wow.
And we're always looking for more. What we're looking for is someone who's doing between, anywhere in the last 12 months, 6 purchase transactions or $1.8 million. If not, there are some cumulative numbers we can hit as well, with the idea that you're going to get deals that come in that you're not going to be able to be the lender on. That maybe it's a lead that came from Rocket or Redfin, or the client knows their brother works as a lender. Okay, but we front all the costs for licensing, for the monthly carry fees, you name it. So we're looking for somebody who's got the ability to close loans in their name to help cover those fees and make money for all of us. So yeah, that's just about, then we've got training. I'm in charge of all the training, marketing, you name it. My job as the trainer, I feel, is not just to teach you some about lending. It's really to help you grow your business as a whole. We did business planning for real estate and Rimlows in December for this year. We just did a course that I taught on how to work your past book of business to get more referrals. Again, not just for the lending side, to help you grow in all manners. So that's what we're here. That's what we're doing. I love the program. It's kept me in the business over these last 5 years where things got really tough. And we've got success stories. Someone on the call right now, and we're growing every day.
Yeah, yeah. Jason has done an excellent job for me as my loan partner. I absolutely appreciate the way he handles my clients. And the nice thing about, I think, the Remlo program for me is that I can say, yes, I'm a licensed loan officer and I can help you find a great lender. And I have an amazing team that handles all of that so I can stay focused on your real estate. And it makes my clients feel so much more comfortable. We actually had a situation last year where I had a client that was a lead from another lender, and that other lender kind of pulled a fast one on them and was not going to allow them to buy the house that they wanted because it was 2 miles too close to the house that they were going to sell after they bought, but they didn't have to sell to buy. And I called Jason and I'm like, hey, is this a thing? What's going on? This is another great reason to be in the Remlo program because when you have questions about the other lender, you can call Jason and be like, is this normal? I don't know what's going on. Um, but we were able to take that loan, get it cleared to close. What did we do? 6 days?
Something, yeah, 6 days, I
It was
believe. Yep.
crazy. It was like 6 days we were clear to close and we closed in less than 2 weeks. So it didn't slow the transaction down at all, even though this happened like right around the inspection part of the transaction. We were able to just pick it up and seamlessly transition through the closing. That client ended up giving me a 5-star review, gave Clear a 5-star review, and gave Texana a 5-star review. So it is an amazing thing, and I got a little extra money. I was also able to help one of my friends who bought in Chicago. I couldn't do a real estate. I referred it to one of our partners over in the Chicagoland area at EXP, and I did the mortgage.
And that was even better because that was a big loan. So that
Yeah,
was
because
a
it
nice
wasn't
little
in
paycheck
Michigan.
there. I know. Hey,
It was in
so think of
Lansing.
it. That's also one of the things too is, being a retail loan officer for so long, it gets a little scary when you hear about things happening in your area that may be bad for housing. Being able to lend in all 50 states, man, that is a way to help safeguard anything like that coming around.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's been a great experience for me. I know a lot of the other Team GoGo agents that have been involved in the Remlo program have rave reviews for it. So if that's something that interests you, again, that'll be in the slide deck. I'm not going to go through all the other slides about how you can get connected with us today, but if you need Flow Not Force, that is in the slide deck. If you want to get connected here at the Cedar Branch, we are an official EXP Culture Center and Agent Hub. We have in-person memberships that are available if you want to come physically to the office. We also have virtual available for you as well if you want to have amazing teaching like this continue throughout the year. So I appreciate everyone for being here. It is a snowy, very cold day here in Michigan. So it's nice to see some warm, friendly faces out here on Zoom. So I appreciate you guys for being here. We will be back next week with title. Clear Title is going to come present and help us understand what title does and how we can work better with them, and maybe even ways agents can be nicer to title. Might be one of my slides in there because I've learned a lot since I owned a title company about title. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you at the branch.